When you live in Germany, you're occasionally confronted with statements that make you wonder, huh? It can't be true. Today, let's have a look at typical statements that are often made but lack any basis. So, typical bullshit. Well, I'm not actually allowed to say the first one because you are not allowed to say anything anymore. When you hear that, the person says something shortly afterwards that they're not actually allowed to say. Funny, didn't he just say that you're not allowed to say that and now he's doing it anyway? And what happens then? Nothing. Usually nothing happens except that you roll your eyes or shake your head. In fact, you're allowed to say pretty much anything in Germany. There are only 3 restrictions. Firstly, you're not allowed to spread nonsense about the Holocaust. The Holocaust was a planned and executed crime and resulted in the murder of millions of innocent people. There's nothing to gloss over, justify, or relativize about it. Whether other dictators also murdered people is irrelevant in this context. Anybody who doubts the deeds or tries to relativize them is liable to prosecution in Germany. Period. Secondly, I'm not allowed to insult anyone. I can think what somebody does is stupid, I can think that their clothes are ugly, or that someone is talking nonsense. I can say all that too, but I'm still not allowed to insult the person. If I insult them, the person can report me. And unfortunately, you see lots of insults on social media. Thirdly, and this is sometimes difficult to define, I must not spread lies that harm others. This is sometimes difficult to define because someone can actually believe what they say. So if someone actually believes in a flat earth, that may be wrong, but from their unconvincing point of view, it is not a lie. If I promise today that I'll come over tomorrow, but then the flight is cancelled and I'm not there, that's not a lie because I intended to. But if I know that my neighbor has done nothing bad, but I still claim that he has done something really bad, then that's a lie and forbidden. You can say pretty much anything in Germany, but the others don't have to listen to all of your nonsense. Second point, you may not have known, Germany is not a democracy. This is indeed sometimes claimed. According to the Economist Democracy Index, which has been conducted annually since 2006, Germany is a full democracy with a score of 8.8 out of 10. The Scandinavian countries, New Zealand, Ireland and Switzerland are in the top group with 9.1 and above, followed by Germany in the second group. The United Kingdom follows with 8.3, Greece or France with 8.1, which are also among full democracies. The USA is a whole point worse, 7.8, and is therefore an incomplete democracy. If you take the US-based Freedom House organization, Germany is just as much an electoral democracy as the rest of Western Europe and North America. No matter which evaluation you look at, Germany is always among the top democracies. Of course, some people who are against democracy won't like to hear that. Some people are of the opinion that if what I want is not done, it is not a democracy. The third point is clear, everything is censored here. Would that be so unusual now? In the First World War, there was censorship, so the states read the newspaper reports beforehand and only allowed what was morally upright to be written. During the Second World War, the entire press was subordinate to the state. But that is precisely why Article 5 of the Basic Law stipulates that censorship does not take place, so that this no longer happens. And what if one of my videos is rated 18 plus, or some social media platforms delete posts or comments, or I don't approve inappropriate comments myself? Then that's not censorship, because censorship can only be carried out by the state. Then it could be that the person has violated the terms and conditions, that the platform deems it's inappropriate, or that I don't want to read the bullshit from people who are spouting nonsense. And if you're just learning German, you'll have to get used to the fourth point, because they want to force us to gender. As you know, there are 3 linguistic genders, as I already explained here. When talking about people, we typically have the masculine and the feminine forms. For example, der Arzt, male doctor, and die Ärztin, female doctor. Traditionally, in the case of the plural, the corresponding form is chosen for people of only one gender, like die Ärzte, male, or die Ärztinnen, female. However, if there were people of both genders in the group, the masculine form was traditionally chosen, like die Ärzte, even if there was only one man and quite a few women. This could now be changed by speaking of Ärztinnen und Ärzte, especially in speeches. Writing is always a bit lazy, but even in the regulation of German armed forces, the term der Soldat, die Soldatin was used for a while, which meant a considerable amount of extra words. Later it was often said at the beginning of documents, this text is aimed at all genders, but the masculine form is chosen for better readability. Even in job adverts, the mostly male title is followed by MWD to show that it applies to everyone, as there has been a renewed awareness in recent years that, in addition to male and female, there are sometimes people who are neither male nor female, or both at the same time. Now, a few people came up with the idea that you could simply combine the forms with either a capital A or an asterisk or an underscore, and then in the case of a mixed group of doctors, you could simply say Ärztinnen, with the same pause in the word as for Erdbeere, strawberry, or Spiegelei, fried egg. This was also implemented by some progressive circles, especially since science has shown that language makes a big difference, especially for children, and that kindergarten children, for example, see a policeman as male because otherwise it would be a policewoman. And if you ask who wants to be a policeman, no girl will answer. And also, it was a completely voluntary thing, and nobody was forced to do anything, and just a few people always took part. Some people claimed that it would now become compulsory. And there were even laws against it, for example in Bavaria. So not everything has to be gendered, there is no law to that effect, and the only law in this regard prohibited. On the 5th point, I have to disappoint you. Did you actually know that Germany doesn't even exist? Did you not? Yes. Then you would have traveled to the Federal Republic of Germany and you would never have arrived, because there are a few muddleheads who claim that it does not even exist. Depending on how confused they are, you would actually still be a monarchy, and the Kaiser probably hasn't abdicated. I hope they are not still referring to the Holy Roman Empire and mean the one from 1918. Others think that there was no peace after the end of the Second World War in Europe and the capitulation of Germany, and therefore there is no legally binding treaty, and everything that has happened in the last 80 years or so is actually not right. You have to realize that the politicians of the Federal Republic of Germany have managed to fool the UN, NATO or EU, and all the countries with which they have diplomatic ties. It's like how all countries knew that Trump had lost in 2020, but a few muddleheads there knew better. In Germany, these muddleheads who think they are really clever and say that the Federal Republic of Germany doesn't exist are called Reichsbürger. Some of them are even dangerous, and some were arrested a few years ago because they were planning a violent coup d'etat. These people are often right-wing extremists. But apparently this also exists in other countries where they are called sovereign citizens or similar, and they also believe that laws do not apply to them. For the Reichsbürger, the Federal Republic is sometimes a company with staff, because the people have an Personalausweis, identity card. Yes, because it contains the word Personal, also translated as staff. Never mind that the word Personalausweis was already used in Prussia before the empire existed. What do such people care about facts? On the 6 points, you also need to be careful when someone talks about die da oben, those up there. This refers to the government or all politicians who do not belong to their own party. This can be the federal government as well as the state government. Those who talk about them up there want to distinguish themselves from them, this us against them. That's why you have to talk about them as an elitist group. But there's nothing elitist about it. The federal chancellor doesn't earn anywhere near as much as professional footballers with salaries in the millions. Even the bosses of large companies such as Bosch, Volkswagen or Siemens earn considerably more, and often a whole series of managers earn considerably more. And the fact that the path to the point where a politician is elected to the Bundestag is thoroughly democratic, and that democratic votes must be held within the parties in order to be able to stand for election, and then a majority must also vote in favor in the Bundestag, is something that is often overlooked. In companies, the boss can also simply decide who earns a lot and who does not. The salaries of politicians are open and transparent. If you then say to the people who talk about those up there, why don't you stand for elections? No, there's no way that they would want that. So those up there are usually followed by some bullshit. The things you find out in the 7 points are always very important, because otherwise nobody reports on them. Yes, exactly. Think about why nobody else knows about it and why the system media don't report on it. Okay, that's 2 points. Firstly, the system media, which is generally everyone who does proper research and doesn't represent the opinion of whoever is spreading bullshit. I'll make a separate video about that on journalism in Germany. But they don't all report on a very specific topic, which is actually so important. Just recently, someone angrily asked why the media didn't report that a girl had been ambushed in a school toilet in a town in North Rhine-Westphalia, saying that he should have heard about it from a Turkish source. Well, if you had read the local newspaper, you could have found out. Or that nobody reports about this or that, and then if you look, it has indeed been reported, but sometimes a year ago. This is very popular in the context of conspiracy theories and when foreign media want to make Germany look bad. In 2016, Russian television claimed that a girl of Russian origin in Germany had been abducted and raped by Southerners. In fact, the girl had received a bad midterm report and had spent the night with a friend out of fear. When she came back, she told the parents a lie that caught the attention of the police because she was entangled in contradictions. If you take the Tagesschau, the program at 8 p.m. lasts 15 minutes. Of course, you can only report on the most important things. The Heute program lasts 30 minutes and RTL Aktuell is somewhere in between. And even a newspaper only has a certain scope, which is why there are still quite a few local daily newspapers that deal with local topics. And yes, everywhere an editorial team decides what is most important and what is printed or broadcast. But if something is not reported at all, not even in the local media or the specialist press, it is either because nobody really believes that it is of an interest to the general public because another car has a scratch in a car park, or how the election of the local football club went, or, and this is often more likely, there is nothing to report. And what the person who says nobody's reporting on that is claiming is simply wrong. Aliens are not controlling the world government, nor are any vaccination side effects being covered up, and we don't fall off a flat earth when we come to an edge. You can see if you can get through a week without running into these 7 bullshit markers. And if necessary, just shout, bingo! Thank you for your attention. See you in the next video.